Okay. Again, welcome to Live from My Drum Room, the Modern Drummer podcast. And it's a great pleasure to welcome my very good friend for many, many years, the one and only Chris Hart.
Oh,
There you are. All
oh,
right.
woo!
And welcome, Chris Hart, my old buddy. Oh, man. It's so good to see you.
Brother Jay, it's great. Thank you. Thank you so much for um, inviting me to the room. And you know how you and I are, and I'm one of your biggest fans. And
Oh, likewise,
you
buddy.
mean so much to me. And it's just
Well, thank you.
I'm excited. I'm sorry for the snafus we just experienced, but I'm just happy to be on with you, and thank you, audience, for your patience. And it's totally my fault. It's not. It's all on me on this one.
No, we had a little audio thing getting connected, but I knew we'd figure it out. And then just now, live on the air, I was fumbling here trying to get it together. So
It's me. It's me. You
it's all
never
good.
have issues. Yet when you invite me on, now you start to have snafus. It's me.
No,
I
it's
get
not.
it.
It's not you. Hey, we got so many of our friends watching. We got Mike Ferris, our old buddy
Oh,
Mike Ferris, Pat Petrillo, Jean Nadeau, all the
oh,
way from Montreal.
oh.
You get the fan club. You get the chart fan
I,
club here.
oh man, and thanks guys and whoever's watching and listening. I really appreciate you guys coming on board, and just thank you guys. Oh my gosh, Mike Ferris.
Mike Ferris, yeah. Mike Ferris doesn't even tune in when I have like Pearl endorsers on the show. So I mean that's huge, man. He's he's too busy.
Yeah,
He's
he's
too
a busy man.
he's a busy
He's
man. But Mike, thanks for watching.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
Uh, oh man. I think everybody watching this knows who you are. I got to think, you're a popular man in the business. You've been
uh,
doing what you've been doing. But just in case there's anybody who doesn't know, and this is going to be a podcast, so there will be people listening that may not know. But for anybody
yeah,
who doesn't know, Chris Hart is the director of artist relations and public relations, correct? At
I'm everything now.
everything.
Even yeah, I'm
Well,
I'm everything. Even we've been through some changes and titles and stuff, but I'm maybe I should. I'm just a jack of all trades right now.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think that happens when you've been with a company as long as you have, and you know all these different parts of the business. And a lot of companies went through a lot of changes the last 2 years, so they
Right?
go to a senior guy like you, and they,
Yeah.
unfortunately or fortunately, they give you a lot of stuff to do. And I
Yeah.
totally get that. So I just appreciate that you answered my text when I asked you to be on the
Oh,
show. You're a busy guy, so thank
yeah.
you.
Oh, stop, John.
Man, I mean
Anything
it.
for
I
you. You
mean it.
know that.
Well, thank you, thank you. And Therese DeMuzio, by the way, is watching, and she sends you big hugs. So you got the whole gang is here, man.
I'm honored. I you have no clue how excited I am to be
Oh,
on the show, and people have been like texting me and ask and saying, "Chris, are you gonna tell stories?" And I'm like, "We ain't got time for all those stories and stuff." You know, I if John wants me to tell a story or two, I will. But this is not a storytelling show right now.
well, I'll tell you, I would love for you at some point during the show. I'd love to hear you tell maybe one of your favorite stories about an artist, anything you want. That maybe even
Okay,
A story about
just
Remo himself would be
just let
cool.
me know,
Okay,
and
that'd be
I'll
great.
tell maybe one or two or whatever. But
Great.
this is not storytelling by John DeChrist.
So everybody watching knows that Chris is the man at Remo, and you've been there almost. It's like coming up on 30 years, right?
Yeah, 2022 is an interesting year for me, brother Jay. Uh, August 10th, I'll be celebrating 30 years at Remo,
Oh, okay.
and then in September, I'll be turning 60.
Wow. Man,
I just how things worked out, I guess, you know.
that's exciting. What a year. It's a big year. That's a
Yeah,
really
yeah, it
big
is
year.
kind of, huh?
Wow. So when you turn 90,
Woo!
you will have been at Remo 60 years. See how quick I did that math?
Yeah, yeah. You're a good mathematician.
So when I met you, and for anybody who doesn't know this, because Chris and I love to tell our story, we met in 1985. I
Yes,
moved
sir.
out to LA to work for Simmons, and I was working there. And I think you came into work there not long after I started. I don't remember. I started like in the late summertime, and I remember you came in, um,
Yes.
and I like to think we became instant friends, just
Instant,
fast friends.
instant, instant. And to add to that, brother Jay, um, uh, it's really amazing because what happened was, and I don't know if you remember this, but in 1985, PASIC was here in Southern California. It was at
I do.
Universal, um,
The Sheridan,
the
right?
Sheraton, yes.
I
And
remember. Yeah,
that was literally my first PASIC that I went to,
me
and
too.
I just graduated from college, so my whole intentions was to go to PASIC and just pass out resumes, and look at drums, pass out resumes, or whatever. And so all of a sudden, out of all the resumes that I passed out, one called me, and it was Simmons.
Wow.
So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So it was for distribution clerk.
Yeah.
So I applied for that, and they hired me, and um, then I got a chance to meet you and all the cast of characters that we had worked with from I think it was Dave Levine and
Yeah. Yeah.
Chris Rallis and uh, Wreak Havoc.
Wreak havoc. Yeah. Yeah. Who?
so
Yeah. I
so
know.
it was interesting, but I gotta say to your audience, I admire this man
Oh,
because I did something that I am truly grateful for. He actually stood up and almost lost his job because he went to bat for me because he wanted me to have a promotions at Simmons. And brother Jay, I would never forget that. I'm embedded to you, and just thank you. That experience was like, first real experience in the music biz, but you're a part of that, and
wow.
I'm grateful for that.
Oh, thank you, brother. That's so kind of you to say that. I just, I remember, I remember that time and meeting you, and I remember that you were fresh out of college and just really excited to be there, really enthusiastic, hard worker, just like today, all these years later, no different. And I just, that environment didn't, I didn't stay that long. I stayed a little over a year, and I'm not sure how long you stayed, but
Yeah,
a lot of us
it was
ended up.
it was around there a little bit under you for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and the nice thing is, like you said, you and me and Chris Rollis and Reek Havoc and a couple other guys sort of stayed in the industry. Dave Levine stayed in the industry, and we'd see each other around. And then I remember, it must have been just a few years later. I guess maybe by that time I was working at Zildjian. I saw you at a NAMM show, or I saw you somewhere, and of course, we remembered each other. I'm like, bro, and you're like, there you were at Remo, and there's that enthusiasm, and you
Yeah.
were right in it, man. You were right in it.
Oh man. So and I totally remember that as well, brother Jay. And we is not it's almost like no time has passed. We just
I know.
up and but you, my friend, you, you're John DeChristopher. It's like everybody knows John DeChristopher.
Everybody knows Chris Hart. Come on, everybody who's somebody knows Chris Hart. I'll tell you.
Uh,
and you are a hero around my house, especially for my granddaughter who loves her
Uh,
pink drum heads. I gotta just say that she just
yeah,
over the
I
moon.
don't want to I don't want to sound sexist, brother Jay. I was just hoping it was for granddaughter, not for you.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you look good in blue. Pink, I don't know.
yeah. That's not really my color for drum heads. I like the good
Yeah,
old coated ambassadors and the
there you
clear.
go. Yes, sir.
Oh man. So I know these last couple of years have really been a challenge, and I'm just I'm just glad to see you and so many of our friends have made it through, and I can only imagine now too, now that you're wearing all these different more hats, it's just going to be an even more demanding job because you got to be, and I know you're leaving today. You're going to see our friend Ash Sohn.
Yeah,
Uh, so you're off to a show tonight, and yeah, it's the
yeah,
job of artist relations. Yeah,
yeah. And it's like I said, far as like, you know, I, we're working more as a team here at Remo, and my title has changed, slightly and stuff, and but I'm doing more things, and trying to use some of the knowledge and relationships that I have to, help the company and all and stuff, and it's different times, it's interesting times, and you know, that old saying, brother Jay, sometimes change is good.
yeah,
Yeah, so I'm getting there and stuff. We got a good department. I'm still so I'm not out of AR. So I'm just letting you know that.
yeah.
But we have like our old friend, and he's back with us now. Bruce Jacoby.
Oh, I didn't know Bruce was back.
Yeah, Bruce is we finally
Oh,
got Bruce back, and of course we got Roger Johnson and all.
yep,
So we're all there, and we're all trying to do our stake to help Remo and maintain the professionalism and the quality of service, and relationships with not only with artists, but our the public as well.
yeah, yep, exactly. I mean, it's relationships are a huge part of it, and and
Yes.
and you're the face of that, and that's a good thing.
I hear that. I hear that, but yeah.
No, but I'm not. I'm being totally real about this, Chris. That's a really good thing for Remo, and we're going to talk about that too, about Remo the company, but we'll talk about Remo the man, who I know you're very close with. But I don't know if I ever told you this, or if people watching know this, but I actually used to work in artist relations. I used to dabble in it myself for a little while, so I know what you're talking about. It's a little bit, a little
Yeah,
bit.
just a little.
A little bit, yeah, and I people tell me I was not very good at it, so
Ah,
I stepped away, and that's when I
ah,
became a podcaster, and that's really what my
uh,
life's work has
you're
become.
hey, brother Jay, you're setting the standards for many of us. Wow.
Oh no, man, you're
But I don't know if I can do podcast. I can get a mic setting straight on my computer, let alone do what you do.
oh no, it's one of those things. What's the necessity is the mother of invention, they say, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just you figure all this stuff out. I know I still don't really know what I'm doing here. As people saw at the beginning, I'm like going, wait a minute, I lost Chris. Where did Chris go? Uh, oh man, but
Uh,
I would love to I would love to talk to you about Remo the man, who I know you were very close with, and I remember um, I guess it would have been 6 years ago, 2016, that we lost him. I think, if that's
yeah,
sounds
I
right.
think we lost him before Vic.
Oh, Vic was 15.
Oh,
That's
so
that's
it
for
was
sure.
after.
I think it might
Yeah,
have been, and well, I
yeah.
remember
I got to
you.
reverse.
Yeah, yeah, and those guys. Well, we can talk about their relationship too, and
Hmm.
but I remember you came. out to New York to the cutting room, and you had a special day to remember Remo, you and Bob Yerby, and you guys did this incredible presentation. I mean, it was like, it was so moving. It was amazing.
Mm.
And I just love to hear like how Remo influenced you as at your job, because you know he, like Armin Zildjian and Vic, the founders of these companies, they were like the Chris Harts and the John DeChristopher's, the artist relations guys before, and you know, before even Lenny was at Zildjian. You know, Armin was doing that job. And
Mm.
so what kind of was there like advice that Remo gave you? Did you ever like go to him and say, I need your advice on something? Or
You know, my relationship with Remo, I y- this is like really strange. When I started at Remo, I was a data entry clerk, and this is we weren't in this building here. We were in the old Remo building on Raymer,
yeah, North Hollywood, yeah.
on the tracks there and stuff. And um, we used to have like all the drummers. This this would be nice for the audience to know. Um, we used to have like these jam sessions at lunchtime. We literally like we get an hour for lunch. 30 minutes we'll eat our lunch, and then 30 minutes we'll go play. Um, and so at that time, Remo started establishing was getting into like the world of percussion.
Yeah.
And so I we had a few Remo drum sets back, you know, back there, and I could never get to it. It was like too late or whatever. So I started playing you know, the world of percussion stuff. Remo used to come in, literally stand in the doorway, kind of bob his head and move on and stuff. And then maybe I think a year and a half later, Remo uh, called me into his office. Now, now, what's the crazy? No. Let me back up a little. And I know I'm going to condense this story because I know we don't have much time.
No, that's
So,
okay.
so what happened was in the old building, there was this area where only one person, like if you're standing where you're at and I'm standing where I'm at, there's a hall, there's literally like a single hall path. You have to let one person go before the other person can go. Two people could not walk on this pathway.
Yeah.
So I was about to go to lunch, and Remo is at the other end. And so I'm like, I saw him like, come on through. And then Remo's like, no, you come here. I'm like, no. You come. And so we're doing this. And Remo, Brother Jay, Remo says, no, I need to speak to you. Oh. And so I went up to him and he said, well, were you about to go somewhere? I said, well, I was about to go to lunch. And he said, well, when you come back from lunch to my office and I need to talk to you. And so, like, oh my gosh. So,
Yeah.
Brother Jay, that was the worst lunch I ever had.
I'll bet.
It was the worst lunch. You know, I went to I don't know what they call it on your end of the coast, but on our end of the coast, we have like this place called Carl's Jr.
Oh, sure. Great burgers, man.
Yeah. So I got my, you know, I got like a chicken sandwich combo. Brother Jay, I took maybe one or two bites and I threw everything away. So I go back into the I go back to the office. I go directly to Remo's office. He's sitting there. He said, oh, come on in and close the door.
Oh. You're thinking, oh no.
And so I'm like, oh, here we go. And so I go in, close the door, and he then proceeds to tell me, hey, you know, I can tell that you have some knowledge in world percussion as well. Um, we're about to start our world percussion line, and I need a guy to manage the world percussion line. And so I'm promoting you to the marketing department. You're going to be the marketing manager over World Ethnic Percussion for Remo. And Brother Jay, I don't know Remo. I don't know if he's kidding, if he's serious. And this is literally my first formal, you know,
Meeting with him.
conversation with the
Yeah,
guy.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so I'm looking at him like, wait, are you serious? He said, yes, I am. I'm serious.
Yeah,
And,
Remo didn't
and
kid.
yeah,
My
and you know,
history is
he doesn't really kid. And
he didn't joke around much. No.
he's not a jokester. And so I'm like, wow, okay. So that's when I got promoted to the marketing department and things, start going and stuff. So that's when I started learning more. I'm sorry I went the long way around to
No,
answering the
this is
question,
great.
but then I started getting more entangled with Remo Belly, or let's say Remo D Belly, the person,
Yeah.
how he is, and his actions and how he thinks and stuff. And the one thing that I tell people, that what I learned so much from Remo, I learned a lot, but the one thing that just really stands out, he is an incredible listener. It's like things that I don't think he hears in a conversation,
Hmm.
he hears and he'll repeat it. And I'm like, wait, you heard that?
Wow.
And so that's the one thing. If anything about the man, he's very knowledgeable. He has a very creative mind. He's many of the things that you probably heard about him.
Yeah.
One thing I don't think people know is, like, literally when you literally having a conversation with Primo, and he's listening to every word that you say.
That's huge. That's huge that he's processing everything.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's processing it, and
Yeah.
just like, wow. And I'm like, for a man of your stature, like,
Yeah.
if I was in that stature, I'd be like blowing you off.
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah, whatever. But,
No.
but for him, it was like, wow, he really listens. And I really, that's the one thing that I'm really most proud about, that when I talk to people and stuff, I became a very good listener because of him.
That's great. That's what a great thing to be able to say,
Yeah.
about your boss. And I remember when you were doing the World Percussion marketing, and you had that job for quite a long time, right? For a
Yeah.
number of years. I remember that,
Mhm.
seeing you, and that was at a time when that was like that was happening, and I know it's still happening, but that was the beginning of it. I know Remo made a huge push
Huge.
in that area, invested a lot, really grew that business,
Yeah, he
grew.
he he
Yeah,
he did. And we, Brother Jay, we took some lumps. We, we experienced so much during that period of time. And but Remo let me solve it. And I thank him for that.
yeah.
He let me be who I am. And
That's
I
huge.
and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and you can be proud of that. You can be proud of being, a part of that, the business, that was
Yes.
that grew and you developed. And I remember Mickey Hart coming down to Zildjian, and us having a meeting with him when all that was happening, and he was, just so excited about all the stuff you guys were doing with him. Like, he was
Mhm.
so into it, so behind it. And Vic used to talk about it too. Vic would have these conversations with Remo. They probably talked on the phone, I'll bet, every week at least. And they were like best friends. And Vic had so much respect for him. He'd say, well, Remo says that this is going to be the next thing that's going to happen. Um, and I don't think he was wrong. I don't.
Right.
It wasn't. Seldom did Remo really stick his neck out and have it not be a success.
He has a knack for that.
Yeah, yeah. The proof is there.
The
Exactly.
proof is there. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
And in the course of that time, obviously you got to, that was so you went from the first job, the data entry job, to marketing for World Percussion. So that was the beginning of your interaction with all these artists.
That's that. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it was like a snowball going downhill, brother Jay, that and I actually that's when I reconnected with you because that's when
Yeah.
I really start going to NAM a lot,
Right.
and the other events we have in our industry and stuff. So I did I did that, and then I went on to become the marketing promotions manager. Now the marketing promotions manager was really interesting because even though I know the percussion side of things, I know drums as well, and my identity was more on the world percussion end, and so now I was being able to like, oh wait guys, I do know drum set as well. I do know drum set,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I got more involved with percussion on the drum set side of things after that stint with the marketing and being the marketing manager of World Ethnic Percussion stuff.
Yeah.
So
And did you start off as a drum set player, Chris? Is that how you?
yeah, I
Yeah, that's
did.
what I figured. Okay.
I started off as a drum set player, but when I look at my past, brother Jay, I was that kid that just wanted to play drums. I didn't think of it as making a living out of
Yeah.
it. I just you know 2 sticks, give me 2 sticks, I'm good to go. And so I never thought of it like most people that I knew in the past. Everybody was like, oh, I'm gonna become um, John Bonham or
Yeah.
whoever and stuff. But I never thought of it in that sense. I just like playing drums. And I didn't care what kind of drum it is. That was my thing. It's just I want to play drums. Now, once I was getting older and stuff, and I started, just like you and all of our cohorts and stuff, we all wanted to play in bands. I played in millions of bands and stuff, and I did my run with that and stuff, and but I somehow I think like when I was in my I don't know, probably in my 20s, early to mid 20s, you know, um, I just said, if I don't make it as a drummer or whatever, I want to be at least in the business. And so the only, my mom and dad, more so my mom, um, all they cared about was you're going to do something. You're not going to just
Yeah.
sit around or whatever. And my dad wouldn't let me anyways, whatever. But it was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and you know, I had a plan A, I had a plan B, and I just did it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here I
I
am.
I think it all, you know what? Honestly, I can relate so much to what you're saying, Chris. Similar path like you. When I met you out in LA, I'd moved out there because I wanted to pursue playing the drums, but I'm a couple years older than you. So
Mhm.
by the time, end of 1985, I'm 25, and the whole playing in a band thing isn't panning out the way that I thought it would. No
Mhm.
surprise, I wasn't the only one with that idea out in LA, and and like you said, things I started thinking more about the business side of it and the industry, and I honestly I recognize that in you. You are a very, I've told you this before too. When we worked together at Simmons, you wanted to learn about everything. You had questions, and you weren't obviously just a guy coming in there, a drummer by a guy just working a day job to support your drum habit. You really were enthusiastic about like learning and growing, and so I'm not surprised that by that
Thank you.
time. Yeah,
Thank you. So
absolutely. Yeah,
and brother Jay, like right now, I'm just, I'm looking at things like close to 30 years later, and I'm just, I'm a very thankful man. And I have met so many people, and young and old, and I met my heroes. It,
yeah,
it, it's just odd. Like when I speak to my old friends, and they, they might have, we'll talk about like, uh, old records and stuff like that. And, I'm just like, oh yeah, he told me about that. And they're like, wait, what? And stuff like I have this one friend, his name is Henry Alexander. And I had asked, like, one of our favorite songs is "What Is Hip,"
oh
Tower
man,
of Power.
yeah, come on.
Great song, right? So so I and I'm not gonna say if it was a mistake or not, but I think one of the greatest bass drum solos is in that song. It is, let me see. Let me try to set it up. I think it's the bridge is da 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 da.
Yeah, yeah,
This is.
yeah, yeah. I always thought that was just Garibaldi being hip, just the hip guy
And
that,
that's
yeah,
and so I spoke to Garibaldi about that and stuff, and he just like Chris, it just happened and stuff. And
yeah, yeah.
my friend Henry is like, no, that's a mistake. That's a mistake. Like, all right, we're done. I'm telling you what is
He just said, "No, man, it's what is hip."
is what is hip.
That was what was hip. Yeah.
Yeah. And,
No,
and,
I
and,
know. Yeah, I know. It's
and,
a
and brother
cool
Jay,
thing.
I mean, to me, we all we get a kick like boom, one note,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it fits.
I
It's
know. See, that's what being
so
a drummer too. See, that's so cool that, again, you come from that world of you're a drummer first. So you hear all these things and you can then talk to David Garibaldi, who is just like, come on,
yes,
right? I mean, the whole world just does that to
yeah.
David. And you're just going, come on, David, come on, man. Was that a mistake or what? And he's
Was that a
going,
mistake or what?
I know, I know. And he's so cool that, because you have that friendship with him, you could see somebody else walking up to him, he could get a little miffed and go, what are you talking about? Like, but
Yeah,
yeah,
but brother Jay, Dave doesn't talk to me. I know I'm going to get ripped on this one. He doesn't talk to me much because he's a San Francisco Giants fan.
I was thinking when I was trying to lighten the moment when we couldn't get the microphone to work, I was going to say to you, I bet I know you hope. I bet I know who you hope wins the next
Oh, you already
playoff
know,
game.
brother
I
Jay.
know. Yeah,
You already know.
I know you're
And,
voting for Golden State, baby.
and let me tell you, I am vocal about that.
I know you are, and I
There's
love you
no
anyway.
way, there's no way I can let your Celtics take over my Los Angeles Lakers.
I'm the same way. I know if the Lakers were playing the Sixers, I'd be voting for the Sixers. I'd be going, no.
Absolutely. You probably go to the freaking Philly home game just to see my Lakers get beat or something. There's no way.
You
There's
knew it.
no.
You knew it had to go here. You knew it had to go
Oh,
here at some
oh
point.
yeah. And brother Jay, this is when we talk about like relationships and stuff. And someone had asked me about, do you have like, what is the best relationships that you have? I said, my people, I got great relationships everywhere. I mean, at least I think so. The most fun I have is definitely with my Boston people. I like
Yeah.
this thing with us and the Lakers and the Celtics, and you guys just don't understand. And then I get grief like uh Lee there's a guy here. I don't know if you know Leon Mobley.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah,
So
from Boston originally. Yeah.
yeah, he's from Roxbury.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, I get on his case, and I get on, and oh my gosh, don't let me even start with Neil Larrabee.
Oh yeah. Well,
Well, you had to jump in one time on that one and stuff.
yeah, exactly. Well, I
And,
remember
and
when Rick Drum worked for Remo. I met him when you and I met when we were working at Simmons. I met Rick. He was working at Remo, and I remember us being comrades, immediately because he's a Celtics fan, and it was like in the '80s and the heyday of all that stuff. And he'd call me, when we got to know each other. He'd that voice Rick Drum has. He'd go like,
yeah,
I'd hear his voice in the other. Good, John, what happened last night? Have they ever heard about playing defense? I mean, Jesus, but and we get into this like whole and analyzing the whole game.
oh,
Like yeah, it was so funny. By the way,
oh man,
Jeff Hamilton is watching
oh,
right
oh.
now. I know. Talk about
Wait,
legend.
you said he's on?
He's watching. Yep.
He's watching. Hammer, I don't like you. I hope you see my face right now. I don't like you. You keep talking about my Lakers. I don't like you.
Oh man. I got to jump back. We could keep talking about all this stuff
Yeah.
all day. When you were talking about, he says, "Same to you." Jeff says, "Same to you." He is such a funny
Yeah.
dude, man. But when you were talking about, like listening to records of legends and people that you knew, and I was thinking before we went on the air today, I was just thinking about the mutual friends that we have that are not here anymore. I mean, I think about the relationship that like Louis Belson had with Remo Belly, the man, Remo the company, with you personally, and I was just thinking, if only to say how lucky you and I both are to have like been alive at the time that Louis Belson walked this earth, and you know we could see him and have dinner with him and go see him perform and talk to him on the phone, and just a man that was just one of the most incredible humans, let alone his drumming, just incredible.
I'm gonna tell you two quick stories right quick,
Yeah,
brother.
yeah, please, yeah.
Here's the first one. My first week at Remo, I didn't know anyone. So I go into the lunchroom and I sit down. There was hardly no one there. The gentleman walks into the lunchroom and he says, and it's empty. It was probably like maybe three of us in the lunchroom. And it was pretty large lunchroom. So this gentleman walks into the lunchroom and he says, "I have lunch with you." And I looked up. It's Louis Belson. now, brother Jay, I'm looking at him. Like, are you kidding me? Of course, sit down. So
Oh,
so
yeah.
Louis sits down and and he had like his lunch bag and stuff. So he's pulling out his food, and him and I were talking and eating. It's like, oh, it's your first time? I'm like, yeah, I just started this week, Mr. Belson. And Louis said, no, just call me Louis. Just kind of like, okay, Louis and stuff.
Oh,
And so we're talking and we're eating, and you know, time goes on, and we're laughing like we're old buddies and stuff. And so, brother Jay, check this out.
oh, that's so beautiful.
So Louis goes into his bag and he pulls out like this aluminum foil. The aluminum foil, I don't know if you can see it, it's like a rectangle,
Hmm.
something like this and stuff. So I see him pull out this aluminum foil. So he's unraveling the aluminum foil. And I'm like, oh, he's about to have some dessert and stuff. So we're talking and talking and stuff. And so then when he finished unraveling the aluminum foil, it's a piece of cake. So Louis says, Chris, would you like a piece of cake? I said, no, Louis, I don't need a piece. He's like, no, really, I want you to have a piece of cake. And I'm like, no, that's okay.
I love
And,
it.
and so we're going back and forth. He's like, no, really, Chris, just I insist.
That's the Italian in
Okay,
him, by the
okay.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, all right. So he cuts me off of Brother Jay, he cuts me off a piece of cake. He gives me the piece of cake and I ate it. I'm tasting it and stuff. And so Louis says, do you know what kind of cake that is? I'm like, no, I really don't know. And then Louis says, oh, this is what we call a friendship cake. Now that you had a piece of my cake, we're friends.
Oh man, that's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. Wow. And it sounds exactly like him, you know? Just
I just,
yeah.
and I'm like, I'm sitting there like, you gotta be kidding me. Louis,
I
I
know.
mean, so it's,
Yeah.
oh,
I have to tell you just a quick Louis
no,
story
go ahead.
too. So Louis was when my kids were little, my son was probably, I'm going to say he was maybe 6 or 7, about the same age as my granddaughter now, in fact, his daughter. And my daughter was, if he was 6 or 7, she was 4 or 5, say. And Louis was doing a clinic at DeCenzo's drum shop out here
Oh,
in Massachusetts, out in Boston. And it was in the wintertime. It was actually at a high school. I brought my kids. It was a Sunday night, and I brought my kids because I was taking them after being with me for the weekend. I was going to take them back home. So anyway, I talked to Louis ahead of time and said I'm going to be coming, whatever. And my son, who still to this day at age 35 now loves to draw pictures, drew this like dog or something, like he drew like a dog or a wolf or something in the woods with the full moon and whatever. So he said, I want to give this to Louis Belson tonight at the clinic. So
mm,
I think he said that, or he just used to like to draw things. So anyway, um, during the clinic, Louis says it's the question and answer point, and my son raises his hand. I didn't know he was going to do this, and he said, "I have something for you." We had seen him before the clinic. I guess we had talked to him. This is, gosh, I don't, 30 years ago. But anyway, um, he goes up and he hands Louis the picture, and Louis holds it up and he introduces my son. He said, "This is John's son," and and he shows it to everybody and he says, "Thank you," and he chats with them. I'm going to say, Chris, it was maybe 2 years later, 3 years later. I talked to Louis all the time, but anyway, he'd always ask how my son was doing, and he said, that picture he made for me, I have it in my suitcase everywhere I go. I take it everywhere I go. And one particular year, he was playing at the Modern Drummer Festival, and it was several years later. And I went up to his room. I think I was going up to bring him something, and we were going to have dinner later. And I said, I'll drop by your room, Louis. And while I'm in there, Francine's there too. And he said, "Oh, John," that voice, that really calming voice he had. He said,
yes,
"Oh,
yes.
John, oh, wait a minute. Hold on. I want to show you something." Reaches in, shows me the picture that my son had made. Like at that point,
Wow.
6 or 7 years before, I'm like, oh my
And he
gosh.
still had,
Yeah, yeah.
oh my
I
gosh.
know, I know. I just, amazing. Just
He's amazing. And before I forget, let me tell this second quick story about, I
yeah,
got
please, please.
tons of Louis stories, but here's a second one. Um, so Brother Jay, I was at the Montreux Jazz Fest in Switzerland,
Yeah, yeah,
and so I'm hanging out, and I went to this stage. Now this stage is like literally like near the water and stuff. And I'm waiting. I'm listening to this one band, but I'm waiting for the next act and stuff. And someone comes and taps me on the shoulder from behind. Turn around, it's Louis. And I'm like, wait, look, what are you doing here? Oh, Chris, I'm sitting in with this big band tomorrow, but I'm just walking around, just checking out the acts and stuff. Oh, okay. And so we continue to talk and stuff. Now we're standing on sand, and I'm tapping my feet onto the sand, and I'm making like these swishing sounds, like how you take brushes and you do the swipes and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And Louis is standing right next to me, and he's hearing it. And so the band that was on stage finally stopped and stuff. And I'm just playing along with the sand and stuff. And so Louis says, you know, I used to tap dance. And I'm like, wait, you what? I say, yeah. And so Louis started doing the soft shoe in the sand.
Oh my gosh.
Where we were standing. People, I kid you not, it was like they saw a rock star. People start coming from in droves, and they circled us and stuff. And these cameras, TV cameras, start coming, and they're like filming Louis doing a soft shoe in the sand. And so Louis did the big ending, ta-da, and the crowd goes wild. Brother Jay, the crowd goes wild and stuff. So this one TV reporter rushes Louis, says, Mr. Belson, can I do a live interview with you? And he said, sure, of course. So I'm like, okay, they're getting set up and stuff. So Brother Jay, I start walking away. Louis grabs my arm, was like, no, Chris, I really want you to stand next to me.
Oh man.
And I'm like, wait, they don't need to see me. They need to see you. And bro, so we did the interview, and I'm just standing there. And so the TV reporter says, and sir, what is your name? I'm like, oh, I'm Chris Hart from Remo. Yeah. So Louis.
But that's Louis, man.
Yeah,
I know.
Louis and stuff. So.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, you know, Jeff Hamilton wouldn't have done that. He would have just, you know, he
brushed it off and stuff.
Yeah. Speaking of brushes, I hear Jeff plays a little bit of brushes.
Oh man. He liked to brush off people. He doesn't really.
Jeff, I'm going to be reaching out to you, my friend. Your number has come up to be on the show. So you can run, but you can't hide.
Yeah.
Mr. Jeffy,
Yeah.
Mr. Hammer.
Go ahead.
Oh, no,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, so I'd love to just continue what you were just talking about, where you were at Montreux. And so people understand part of what your job. I mean, I know this, but I think people would appreciate like how involved your job is when it comes to these huge festivals like like Montreux, like Jazz Fest, like PASIC, which is its own sort of big.
Yeah,
it's small compared to Montreux, but it's a big drum event. So you're like providing backline support basically to all the artists.
Backline support. Yeah, we're some of a lot of your, at least we try with a lot of the major festivals and stuff, especially with the jazz ones. We try to be like the sponsors of, and it's a win-win because the majority of the artists are like Remo guys and stuff, and we try to provide drum heads, and then a lot of the festivals is like coming at us like, hey, can we make a deal with you, because we look at all the writers, and they're asking for Remo drum heads and stuff like that. So it's a win-win. So like something like Montreux, another major one, we're no longer the sponsor, but we were for many years. The North Sea Jazz Fest.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, we were sponsoring that for a long time as well. And it goes on, and like when you get like domestically here and stuff, like the Monterey Jazz Fest in Monterey, California.
Yeah. Do you do Newport Jazz too?
We don't do Newport. That's something, I know, a few people have asked me about, but No, we
Yeah,
don't unfortunately do that one, but there's
can't
one.
be it. Yeah,
Uh, well, excuse me. It used to be called the Playboy Jazz Fest,
oh yeah, yeah,
but now they changed names and now it's the Hollywood Bowl Jazz Fest. So we're a sponsor of that and a few other ones, and
yeah.
so
And they,
we try to spread our wings as much as we can
yeah.
to try to provide service for artists and companies.
And you're running like crazy at these shows, right? I mean,
Yeah,
I've seen
we're
you in action. Yeah, yeah,
it's tough,
yeah. It's a lot of
but
work. It's a
someone got to do
I
it.
know somebody's got to do it. That's just for anybody who thinks it's all, you know,
It's not easy, that's
hanging
for
out
sure.
with rock stars and jazz greats like Jeff Hamilton. It's not all like that. It's a lot of hard work. Actually, it's hard work hanging out with Jeff Hamilton.
Yeah,
Actually,
it's just hard work hanging out with that guy. You know.
I've had many hard dinners with Jeff where my arm was so sore at the end of the night from lifting up that wine glass that
Oh,
I had to ice it down when I got back to my hotel room afterwards. So
hey, now, brother Jay, I think it was maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. Uh, Chris Stanky, the director of arts relations for Sabian,
yes, a good
and
man, very good
and
man.
his lovely fiance Jules Thomas. They invited me. I guess they had a little event. Well, they had a little event at their home and stuff. So me and Gabriel Lorenz, we went over to hang out and stuff. And I did it because Chris told me that Jeff Hamilton was going to be there, and Gabriel Lorenz wanted to see, Jeff. So we went over, hung out, and sure enough, Jeff came. And between Jeff Hamilton and Andy Zildjian, they gave me the most grief out of all the people I know, man. It was like they were tag teaming me.
Oh, yeah.
I get hit from the left from Andy, I get hit from the right from Jeff, and then they went all night on me, bro.
Andy can be brutal. All right, next time I'm going to
they're
be there.
brutal.
I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there to support, to back you up.
I need it because those two were like, the dynamic duo. They were going at me, and this is after 1 or 2 glasses of wine.
I'll bet it was good wine though. If Jeff was there,
good wine.
It was good wine. Yeah,
it was.
Yeah. He doesn't mess around with that stuff.
Yeah, Andy and Jeff just went at me and stuff. So especially Jeff.
Yeah. Hey, I gotta as we're getting close to the end here, I gotta just tell you, Eggy Castrillo is watching, and our brother from right here in Boston, and he's asking me to ask Chris about the party at my home with Giovanni Hidalgo, Horacio, and Victor Mendoza. Must have been after one of the Berkeley percussion weeks, I'm guessing, some years ago.
Years ago we used to excuse me. Years ago we Remo used to sponsor
Percussion week?
percussion festival. That's what.
Yeah.
So
I remember. Yeah.
And Aggie had and everybody was hanging out there, and like you said, Giovanni and Horacio and Walfredo Reyes Sr.
Oh man.
He was there and stuff. So I guess Aggie said, you know what? I'm gonna have a little thing at my house. I want everybody to come. So we went to hang out at Aggie's house, and it was the party of parties, brother.
I can only imagine what those
Jesus.
guys, man.
Oh my gosh. It was just like, oh my gosh, you guys are killing me.
And you had to work the next day, right? Yeah. What those guys don't realize is like, you go back to your hotel, right? And the next day you got to get up at whatever time and be there for the clinic and set the stuff up.
They don't care.
They don't care. Yeah. They don't care. I know.
No.
See, again, folks watching at home, this is the stuff that, As I mentioned earlier, Chris might remember, I used to work in artist relations a little bit. I dabbled a little bit. And I remember
A
those,
lot.
but I remember those hangs where like you're going, man, why did I
Why?
do that? Why did I,
Why?
I know. Oh man. Oh, and Eggy's saying the Chinese restaurant. I can only imagine. It sounds like
Uh,
it was a,
it,
yeah,
yeah.
Mai Tais
I
and,
tell you later, it's about a dog.
oh, all right. We'll save that when we're off
Yeah,
the
well,
air.
yeah,
That's probably,
well, it's about a
oh man.
dog. It's
Oh man.
Brother J is classic though, but it's about a dog.
Oh man.
It,
Well,
and I gotta squeeze this one in too because I know
yeah.
uh,
Please, yeah.
um, Dean Anderson. Remember Dean?
I sure do. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
yes. So Dean was when I talk about my Boston foes, like
Yeah.
you others, Dean was notorious on me, bro. Dean used to like kill me majorly and stuff. So I'm gonna make this real short. So when Dean retired,
Dean
um,
was the chair of percussion at Berkeley, everybody, if you don't
yeah,
know. Yeah, who Dean
yes.
was. Yep. No, that's okay. Yep.
So, okay, so when Dean retired, I they were uh, we were asked to do a presentation, and so it was Pearl, it was you guys, well, when you were at Zildjian, and it
Yep.
was Remo. So we all had our nights. There was a Pearl night, Zildjian night, Remo night. I think they stuck me in the middle between Pearl and Zildjian. So during the day of our evening and stuff, during the day, um, I see Dean, and Dean is just regular casual clothes and stuff, and we talked and blah
Yeah.
blah blah, and everything. Brother Jay, everything is fine and dandy. We get to the evening of the presentation and all, and I see Dean, and Dean is in this tan suit. I'm like, bro, you dress well and stuff. I'm like, oh, this is
Yeah.
great. So I'm Brother Jay ain't thinking nothing of it and stuff. So the presentation goes on, and then they bring Dean out, and then they brought me out, and now I have like this plaque that Remo made, for Dean. And so Dean, before I go to the podium, Dean says, "Wait, everyone, I want everyone to know that Chris Hart from Remo is from Los Angeles, California."
Oh no. Oh no. Oh,
And and I'm like, oh no, I know what's coming. And
oh.
so Dean says, "Wait." So he pulls off his blazer, he unbuttons his shirt, and he stretches it out, and on the shirt it says "Beat LA." And
Wow.
the crowd, no, brother, the crowd goes ballistic. So Dean hops back on the mic. He says, "Let's give Chris Hart some good old Boston lore and stuff." And he
Oh.
starts this chant, "Beat LA, beat LA," and I'm just standing there like a nutcase, like, really? You're gonna do this, and I have no comeback?
Wow. And you were giving him a plaque too.
And
I
I'm
mean,
giving him a plaque.
and you're honoring him. Not to mention
Yes.
all the dinners you bought him over the years and all the drum heads and
Hey, hey, brother Jay, you see how ungrateful people are at times?
I do. I do. I gotta say, I'm not one of those sports fans that takes it to that level, but people out here are nuts with this
Yeah.
stuff. They
Well,
are.
we're a little nuts on the left coast too.
I will. I'll tell you a quick funny story. I told this when Chad Smith was on with me a couple weeks ago or a few weeks ago. The Chili Peppers played at the Boston Garden. This would have been in the '90s, And even though Chad's a Sabian guy, he invited me. You know, we were friends, so I came to the show. And at the end of the night, they had just finished like playing their encore, and they were finally done for the night. And they're all standing up front. And Flea, the bass player with the Chili
Woo.
Peppers, you know, comes up to the mic and he's looking up at the ceiling, and there's all the championship banners hanging. You know, at that point there were 16 hanging, and he says, "You know, I've been wanting to say this for a long time." And I'm just like watching him.
No.
He goes, Celtics suck, Celtics suck, Lakers rule, Lakers rule. And the crowd had been like giving him a standing ovation up till
Yeah.
then, and then they just like, boo, you suck, you suck. It was like they just turned, you know. It was like,
I bet it did.
yeah,
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 Brother Jay, because Flea is a huge lake.
big time,
Huge.
yeah, yeah. Oh my God. Well,
Uh,
Brother Chris, I won't keep you too much longer. I know
no,
you got a busy rest of your day, and you're going to see
I,
Ash.
I'm fine and stuff, and I know there's other topics that you wanted to talk about, and I'm so sorry that I went on this
No,
tangent
no
and
way, man. No,
stuff.
this is we had no agenda. I just wanted
Yeah,
to.
and Brother Jay, people are texting me like, I'm sorry for repeating myself, but tell stories, Chris. I want to hear stories. I'm like, that's all on John DeChristopher. He controls everything.
Well,
I'm just
I would love to hear another story. If there's one, when people ask me, like to, it's I feel like I'm on the spot sometimes. You know what I mean? To come up with something, I'll be like, somebody say, tell a story about Armand or something, and I'm like, oh, geez, well, which ones can I tell? First
right,
of all,
right.
and then it's funny. Like there's like when you're like, but if there's a story you want to tell about one of our drummer friend, I know you were like really close to Ndugu. Um,
Yeah.
I
I,
know that was a
I, I,
tough one.
I'm trying to think of one. Here's one because I know we're running out of time. It's only because I just heard this, a Beatles song a couple hours ago that I'm still like it's ringing in my head.
Yeah, yeah,
So check this out, Brother Jay. There was we have at least here in LA, we have this thing called Grammy Week.
yeah,
And so a lot of the rehearsals for the Grammys is at center staging.
yeah.
So I go there one week and on one day, I'm sorry. And I always, I have this thing where I go in the drum department, talk to the guys, make sure everything's okay and stuff. And believe it or not, audience, this is a true story. I know it's going to be hard to believe, but it's a true story. So I leave out the back door of center staging, and there's just a crowd of people just all out in the pathway and stuff. And there was one that was near the door, and I couldn't open the door. It was so many people and stuff. So they let me out and stuff. And so I'm looking, and I'm looking for like Johnny Lord. Now, Johnny Lord, for those who might not know, is like an integral part. I call him one of the he is center staging,
Yeah,
in my eyes and stuff.
me too.
So
Yeah.
I'm looking for Johnny Lord, and I'm like, oh, I see him in the distance. So I walk over to Johnny Lord, and he's talking to A. Lobario Jr. So I gave, I loved up Johnny Lord. I loved up Abe. So the three of us is talking. Probably 10 minutes later, this guy comes and he says, Craig? And I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me like, Craig. And I'm looking at him like, no, you're close. It's Chris. And he's like, Chris. So it's Paul McCartney.
Oh my God. I was gonna say, did he have an English accent? Oh my God.
And so now John Ford and Ava Mario Jr., they're looking at each other like, wait, Paul McCartney? and so Paul's like, man, Chris, I haven't seen you in so many years. How you been? And stuff like, oh man, I'm fine. And, and we're talking and stuff. And, he said, man, well, I saw you walking out the door. I'm doing all these interviews here, but I recognize, like, I just wanted to come by and say hi to you. Is everything okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm still at Remo, still doing my thing. Everything is fine and stuff. And so Johnny and Abe are like, just like, what in the world is going on here and stuff? He said,
Oh,
and so then Paul says, are you gonna go to the Grammys tomorrow? I'm like, yeah, I'll be there. He said, okay, well, hopefully I see you then. I was like, okay, I look forward to that. I said, okay, take care, Chris. Let me get back. Let me answer some more questions and stuff. So Paul McCartney leaves. He goes back to answer questions. Abe, Abe and Johnny are like, what just happened? I'm like, I can't really tell you. I I can't. And Abe was like, Chris, how he actually almost remembered your name. I'm like, yeah,
that's amazing. So you had
pretty
met him
crazy.
years before, and he remembered you.
Yes, it gets
That's
it gets worse. So I finish up everything at center staging. I go back to the office. So at that time, the team was me, Matt Connors, and Michelle Torres.
oh, sure, yeah.
So I'm telling the story to Matt and Michelle about what just happened at center stage. Now, brother Jay, I can understand them saying, "Yeah, sure, that happened," but believe me, they believe me. I said,
Yeah.
"No, it
You
happened."
you had witnesses though. You
I
had
I
Abe
have
Jr.
witnesses. Yes,
Yep.
sir.
And Johnny
So
Ward. Yeah.
so uh, Matt, I don't know what happened to Matt. Matt couldn't make on the show. So I asked Michelle, I said, Michelle, if you want to go to the Grammy Awards, you could come along with me since Matt is not going. And Michelle said, sure, I would love to go. Next day comes. We're backstage at the Grammy Awards. We're backstage, and I see another crowd. And I kind of looked and I saw the top of the head. And I saw it was Paul. I kept walking. A couple of minutes later, this guy's running like, Chris, you made it. You made it. Now look, it is Paul McCartney again. And so, and
Oh,
so Paul gives me this hug. Now, Michelle, I know a lot of people don't know, Michelle is standing there stunned. She's hyperventilating. She's like, I can't believe this is happening and stuff. And so I look at Paul. I said, hey, Paul, hold on one sec. Paul, I need you to meet my co-worker, Michelle Torres. Michelle Torres, this is Paul McCartney. And so Paul says, oh, hi, Michelle. I wrote a song about you. Michelle is standing. I thought she was going to faint. Brother Jay, I thought she was going to faint.
oh my God.
Oh,
See, this is what I'm talking about you. This is the effect you have on people. I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
and so Paul said, man, Chris, it was so great seeing you yesterday, man. Thank you for everything and stuff. So let me get back. I saw you walking and stuff, but I just wanted to say hi again and stuff. It's like, no, Paul, do your thing. We'll catch up later. And so that was.
Wow. He said, I saw you standing there. Oh my, Chris, I'm so glad you told that story. I'm so glad I didn't let you go without,
Oh,
and you were able to
yeah.
tell that story. That's awesome,
I
man.
tell, and so I saw like Paul did we have a new stadium here called SoFi
Yeah.
Stadium, and Paul played there and stuff. And so Michelle actually went and saw the show, and she had texted me and says, Chris, I still think about the time that I like, I bet you did.
What a great story, man. I love that. That is so great. And
Yeah. So,
it just confirms what I was saying and what everybody already knows about you.
nah,
Just have to meet you one time, and that's
nah.
yep.
We're not going that far, brother Jay. I'm still trying to get on John the Christopher status.
Come on, no. Well, brother, this has been such a thrill and an honor to have you today, and to
Thank
just
you.
catch up.
Thank you so much. And again, you know, I can't begin to tell you how much this is an honor to be sitting here with a man that you know, one of my heroes in this industry, and you know, you set the standard of how people should be respected and
Wow.
dealt with, and how you know you you and what you have done in the past, brother Jay, is like just amazing. And you know, I'm just glad to, you know,
Thank
follow
you.
your path. You're such an amazing man,
Well,
and
that's
you know, I
thank you.
sing your praises as much as I can because you truly deserve it and more.
Thank you, Chris. And I do yours, and I just want to say that you're setting an amazing path yourself, my friend. Really.
I thank you. Yeah, I learned from the best.
Well, thank you, brother. All right. Well, I did dabble in it for a little while, so I
I, yeah.
I'm beating that thing to death. Sorry. Thank you. All right. Well, hang tight for 1 minute. I want to thank everybody for watching, and especially my good dear friend Chris Hart for being here today. And thanks you guys for hanging in there. Chris, sit tight for a minute if you would, and I'll end the live stream. But a big hand, everybody, for Chris Hart,
Oh,
the man that is Remo.
I wouldn't go that far.
Oh, and I just really quickly, so these are some vintage rototoms and a rototom timpani that belonged to my father-in-law, Vic Firth, that I'm
Oh,
lucky to have here in my home drum museum. So
don't get
anyway,
rid of it, brother Jake. Hold
no,
on.
never. Yeah, look at this. Oh, I can't really reach it, but anyway, it's a very rare timpani rototom, and the original chrome rototom. So anyway. Bob Terry, love you, brother. Bob Terry says, two of the best. Thanks for watching, Bob. And
Uh,
Tim Kamanchuk, we love you too. All right.
uh,
Thanks for watching, everybody. Big hand for Chris Hart, and we'll see you soon.